tighten your nerves and join the crowds at our convention of spooks.
In case you pass out, that's tough.
Something very special to me as a kid was the weekly trip to the movie rental store. You know, places like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, or other places like my local spot, Movie Scene. It was like an important event. One of my favorite things about it was just looking at all of the covers of the different movies and video games, regardless if it was something I'd even watch or be able to play. After all, a lot of times that was all you had to go off of. My favorite place to look was the horror section. It would be a few years before I was allowed to watch any of them, but the dark box art covered with monsters and murderers would capture my imagination. I remember thinking the cover for Child's Play 2 was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. I had to seek this stuff out, as it was all limited to the horror section. But there was one movie I couldn't escape. Several copies lined the new release shelf for months. That movie was Saw, released in 2004. Even when I was a young kid, I could tell Saw was a different type of movie. The letters in the logo were gritty, and the cover wasn't the illustrated art piece I'd usually see, just a plain white background with some realistic dead limbs. When the sequels came out, they got even grimier with severed fingers and worse, teeth. I was just a dumb kid and couldn't tell that the different parts were supposed to represent numbered sequels. I just thought they were all the same movie. But either way, I knew that Saw must have been some real shit. And it was. Saw was a phenomenon. It was a fresh horror face for the new millennium, and as far as I can tell, it was also the first new franchise of the 2000s as well, or at least the most famous. From 2004 to 2010, the series had annual releases, each dropping around the same time in October. That's a very impressive run, and puts the Jigsaw Killer among the likes of Freddy and Jason. Going back to 2004, Saw is a damn good movie. A lot of people that have only heard about the series will talk about Saw as if it's a disgusting, blood and guts filled gore fest. While the later installments can fit that description, the original film actually keeps it fairly subtle. It isn't without its bloody moments, but a lot of it truly isn't too bad. It's not your average horror movie. It has horror elements mixed with a crime drama and mystery, with the subplot involving cops trying to track down Jigsaw. The main focus is on these two guys trapped in a disgusting restroom by the Jigsaw Killer. Jigsaw is a unique serial killer that technically doesn't kill anyone. He kidnaps people and puts them in sadistic traps he calls games.
I want to play a game.
And they live if they win. If they lose, they end up killing themselves. It's all up to if they can solve the puzzle or not. Our two main characters must find a way to cooperate to get out of the game alive. A unique aspect of the whole series is its use of non-linear storytelling. The main movie is contained within the restroom, but a lot of the story is told through flashbacks and cutaways taking place at different times from different perspectives. This makes it difficult to know exactly when events are taking place in the timeline of the plot. If done wrong, this could be needlessly confusing, but it works here and is done on purpose. It's up to you as the viewer to solve the mystery and figure out Jigsaw's true identity.
Well, I couldn't possibly solve this mystery. Can you?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, you know.
I was lucky enough to go years without being spoiled, and I hope the same to you too, so I'm not giving it away here. You just have to watch for yourself. There are some aspects of the film that haven't held up too well. Truthfully, a lot of the dialogue straight up sucks.
Can you hear me in there? Huh? I'm having a blast. This is the most fun I've had without lubricant.
I'll also say that anytime the movie uses slow motion, it looks really bad. I'm not entirely sure what the problem is, but it just looks wrong. That's not to say there aren't good technical things in this movie. There was a weird trend in this era where so many movies had to have these gross green and blue filters, but it works really well with the gritty tone of this movie. Everything looks fittingly disgusting and grimy. There are also plenty of these crazy shots too, with fast camera movements and visual effects. It's like something out of a dark music video. This all adds to the tension and feeling of disorientation in the scenes. Of course, you can't talk about Saw without mentioning the absolutely iconic score. The main theme of the movie is a spectacular instrumental, and whenever it plays, you know some serious shit is about to go down. One can't deny the huge legacy that Saw had on pop culture and the horror genre as a whole. It started a trend of torture-themed horror movies, with several others following behind. It's a super scary idea to be trapped in someone's sadistic game of survival, and it really left an impression on audiences. So much so that if I try to talk to someone to see if they like horror movies, they'll often say no because they don't want to watch people get tortured like Saw, as if this one movie represents the entire genre. To be honest, it's really annoying and you all gotta stop saying this, but it is a testament to the film's legacy that it was so big that some people think this is every horror film. The series died down in 2010, but as of 2017, the series has been revived with the terrible Jigsaw and another movie, Spiral, releasing in 2021. I haven't seen that one yet, but I heard it wasn't bad. A movie called Saw X is apparently in development too. I hope it's like Jason X and Jigsaw Goes to Space, that's just kinda where we're at right now. There have also been video games and even a roller coaster.
So you thought the games were over? They've only just begun.
Saw the Ride at Thorpe Park.
I would like to mention that 13 Days of Halloween is largely inspired by Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. For those that don't know, Monster Madness was an annual series where James Rolfe, also known as the Angry Video Game Nerd, would do a horror movie review every day of October leading to Halloween. While I do feel it fell off a lot in the last few years, it was great when it started. Watching it as a kid introduced me to a ton of horror movies, many of which I covered in this marathon, and it was a huge influence on my interest today. The first Monster Madness was also a history of horror, and when it ended, he talked about the state of horror at the time of release. He oft-mentioned Saw as a newly released movie bringing in a new type of horror, but didn't cover it. Now here I am, years later, covering it in my own history of horror. A bit of a tangent, I know, but I just wanted to pay tribute to the series that inspired my own. I also wanted to draw attention to how far we've come. What was new and innovative years ago has now run its course. It's been over 100 years of horror, and the genre is still innovating. Anyway, if you haven't watched Saw yet, and more importantly haven't been spoiled, definitely check it out. You're in for a treat.
Game over.
Pleasant nightmares, friend. Good midnight to you.